in Canada. Good evening to the viewers in India. And it's an honor to have today with us Mr. Robin Ayoub. He's the president, Canadian Language Industry Association, with 3 decades in business management and executive leadership. He has been focused on business growth and has built up his expertise in customer acquisition, increasing the revenue, profits, and many more things to strategically grow your business in different domains. And today we are here with him to discuss on how sustainability can be integrated in growing your business. Thank you so much, Mr. Robin Ayub. It's an honor to have you with us today.
Great. Thanks. Thank you very much, Harsha. I appreciate the invitation and I appreciate being part of your show. Thanks for the invitation. Thanks for making me part of your audience. I heard a lot about your organization and the good work that you guys do, and I couldn't help but be part of it. So thanks again for the invite. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. You have such a large experience in developing businesses, and you graduated in science in Lebanon, and presently you're leading president, being a president of Canadian Language Industry Association. So it's quite a starking change. How has your journey been?
So thank you for the question. Very interesting question, by the way. And I call it my story. How did I get to where I am right now? I never, this is brand new for this large audience to be saying this because I don't talk about it much, but this is the first time I'll be talking about it. So that's pretty intriguing as well. I was born and raised in Lebanon. By the age of 5, the civil war started in Lebanon. And I lived through that until I was only in my early 20s, during which you had to do like any civil war, like we're watching right now on television unfolding in Ukraine. This was happening in my hometown and where I grew up in Lebanon as well. So we had to survive as a family, mom and dad, they had 5 kids. They had to survive the civil war. They had to try to give us education as much as they can, send us to school, etc. in the middle of all this. I escaped, long story short, I gained my education in Lebanon. I have my degree in computer science, and during which I was working for a bank. I remember I started my work early with, like everybody else does during college. You do get a job in somewhere to sustain your education, basically. So I got a job as a teller at a bank while I was going through my education. As soon as I graduated, there was a major incident. I was coming back from my office, and during the war, there was shelling on the highway as I was driving, and I remember there were shells that fell around me in the area. And long story short, I drifted off the road because of that. Ended up in an accident. I ended up in a hospital to treat me a little bit. And after I finished, luckily it was not life-threatening injuries or anything. But after I finished with the medical treatment, and I'm talking like early 20s, I ended up asking myself a question. There got to be a better life out there. Early in my life, and I only projected life to be what it is, what I grew up to know, what I saw, in my own eyes when I was a kid. So I started asking myself the question, where could be a better life for me outside? So I took my younger brother with me. We're 5 kids. So I took my younger brother with me, and we escaped and we went to Cyprus. We got a job and we started working. And then our house where we used to live in the Beirut region, during that time, mom and dad and 3 of my siblings were still left in Lebanon. That house got destroyed because of the war, and mom and dad had no place to go. So we wanted to figure out how to rescue the rest of the family. And so we ended up trying to figure out, where do we go from here? I mean, we're in Cyprus, not because we want to immigrate to anywhere else. We're just trying to shelter ourselves from all the hostilities that were going on. So I ended up going to ask around. So we found a place, at the time, the Canadian government, luckily, and thanks to the Canadian government, was accepting immigrants to come to Canada, and we had nowhere else to go. So we ended up coming to Canada, bringing the whole family to Canada. I came to Canada, and in 1990, in the middle of February. We lived in the Middle East all of our life, and you land in Canada in the middle of February. That's a shock. It's a shock to the system. So we ended up in Canada, and I landed in Canada, and I didn't speak a word of English at the time, and I only spoke French and Arabic. Those are my Arabic is the language of mom and dad and the house that we grew up in, and French is the school language. So when you go to school in Lebanon, you study French. So I didn't speak a word of English, and we were in Montreal at the time. I figured, it's a big city. I don't want to be in a big city. I just came from a big city. I didn't end well. So I said, let's go figure out where can we go from here. We ended up going to the province of New Brunswick in a small town called Fredericton, which is the capital of the province at the time. And arriving to Canada was nothing really. We had a few dollars in our pocket, nothing else. So ended up staying at the basement of a church for a couple of weeks until we figure out what we need to do. I got my first job. Nothing in the education that I took had nothing to do with the job that I initially obtained. I'm proud to say I started in a small menial jobs doing construction work, and then the head of the company where I was doing the basically sweeping the floor. That's what I started doing. He figured that I'm a computer programmer. Somebody told him. I don't speak English. So there was somebody intermediary trying to fix all these conversations, trying to translate all these conversations. And that's maybe down the road why I drifted into localization business. Long story short, I was doing construction during the day. I was doing programming for that individual at night. And it mushroomed from there. My name got out that I'm a computer programmer. So I started working for companies like Blue Cross, Purolator, etc. And from there on, I went to telecom, and in telecom, I did system engineering and network design and a few other things like telecom would do. And one day we were supposed to be presenting to a customer about our, sales manager was supposed to do it. I was supposed to help them design the system. So the sales manager didn't make it, was not able to come to the meeting. I remember the CEO of the organization coming into me and telling me, hey, today you're going to be the salesperson. I said, no, I'm an engineer. I don't do sales. And he said, no, today you are going to do sales. So I couldn't refuse the instructions or what he asked. So I ended up going to the meeting, playing the role of a sales manager, although I'm not a sales manager. And so, but on my way to the meeting, I said, what was the objective? What do you want me to do in this meeting? He said, Robin, we want to win the deal, like typical salespeople, right? They want to win the deal. So I went in, I did the presentation for the client, and we ended up winning the deal. And that was my shift in my entire life, because right after that meeting, the CEO of large organizations take me out for lunch, and he tells me, from here on, you're a salesperson. Forget all that stuff about technical and doing all the design and computers and all that stuff. You're a salesperson now. And my career took off in that direction in the business development, which I'm blessed with. And I'm blessed to know what I know now and the experience that I've gained, and what doors this particular shift in my life has opened to me. It's incredible. I look back on my journey and where I am right now, and what I was able to accomplish in that track. And I am so blessed to be where I am right now. And I'm so thankful for everyone who came across my path along the way. Every individual, I'll never forget them. And someday, somehow, I will write a book and they will all be mentioned. So here I am right now. I am working today where I am right now. Fast forward to where I am. I am the president of the Canadian Language Industry Association. I have about 2 decades in experience in the localization industry. I've held a variety of positions or various positions in the industry. I started as an account manager, drifted to the industry by accident. That's another story. I was coming back from a business trip. I was flying to a city called Moncton, New Brunswick. there was somebody sitting on the beside me, an old colleague of mine I haven't seen for a while. He asked me if I would be willing to go work for him. I said, "Well, this is the job." He said, "I would like you to manage my sales team, VP of Business Development." I said, "Okay, I'll give it a try." So I took on the job, and from there on, 20 years later, here I am. So I grew that company. We ended up selling the company to somebody else, and we went through another transaction of selling the company to another bigger company, and now here we are.
That's a
That
very interesting journey, I must say. And you've climbed up from Beirut to where you are, experiencing a lot of hardships, trials, and tribulations. But now that you are the president for the Canadian Language Association, and language talks a lot about cultural heritage and background of a person, especially coming from where you are coming.
Mhm.
What are the initiatives taken to ensure inclusivity in diversity in the Canadian industries?
Okay, great question as well. As you know, translation and localization industry, it's about connecting people. It's about being the bridge between various demographics. It's about passing that message along between a group that wants to understand a language in a certain language of their choice, and a business or an entity or another group that wants to communicate that message to them. So this is what the fundamental, if you will, about the industry, which by design allow us to be more inclusive. So for instance, our industry in Canada covers hundreds of languages. So that allows us to employ people in a variety of origins, variety of mother tongues, because we need people to speak those languages. So by design, the industry is opening opportunities for various demographics, for various ethnic groups, because we need them. We need to, that's a business reason, and B, a community reason. So we want to make sure that we're communicating. For instance, the city that I live in, which is called Toronto in Canada here, the city is a melting pot of variety of various demographics. So, the last count I have in Toronto, there's about 128 spoken languages. So if you are a business in the localization industry or the translation industry in Canada, you've got to be able to accommodate these groups. And how do you do that? Is by reaching out to these groups and building bridges and bringing them over to you in terms of either being a freelancer contractors for us, so creating jobs for them, or hiring them permanently on your staff. So the business that we're in, I think it could be used as an example of inclusivity in the way we work with those with each other as groups of humanity or humans that we're trying to communicate together.
So that's very inspiring for the work that you're doing. But Canada also holds a history of discrimination, like many other countries do, on the factors of color and race. What are the initiatives taken by your association to conserve language of Aboriginals and other minority communities?
So great question as well. The discrimination that you speak about in Canada, it is if you look at what's coming out of the Canadian government, especially in the reconciliation initiative that the government has started, the current government has started a few years back now with our Aboriginal community in Canada. That's pretty awesome. The way this is progressing, it's opening a lot of doors and it's putting a lot of items on the table that were not possible before. For instance, as an example, the Canadian government now, before this initiative, had, if you look at take example, for instance, the parliamentary debates, for instance, that were translated into two languages, English and French. After the reconciliation, we're recognizing as a country 5 Aboriginal languages to be added to those communication. So this is on the level of our industry that we're currently dealing with. Canada, in general, is a peaceful country. So you don't see what you see in various other countries when it comes to the ethnicities, etc. I remember, and I live like I told you, I live in Toronto. I mean, I feel like, we're, and as volunteer, I do a lot of other volunteer work in terms of our community, and I see all these groups of individuals or groups of various backgrounds. Canada is an immigrant country. People come from various parts of the world and they settle here. Some of us arrived a little earlier. Some of them are arriving now. We recognize the fact that we all come from different places, and like we come here to make something better of our lives altogether. It doesn't matter what the ethnic origin is or what the origin of that individual is. It doesn't preclude you of being human. We're all human at the end of the day. We're all trying to do the best we can. We're all trying to live our lives better, and you can see that embedded in everything that this country has to offer, in the laws that we have. You can see it in the opportunities that we're offering to. It's open to everybody. And there was this concrete effort, for instance, in Canada to promote women, promote different genders, promote different ethnic groups. And there is measurements and metrics that these companies have to report on, not just necessarily the localization industry, various other industries. They have to register and report on, their employees, their freelancers, their contractors, and report that back to the various government institutions. So that's part of the process that we currently have. It doesn't, if you leave it to an individual organization, say, hey, I want you to be more inclusive. I'm sure, many companies will have that direction at the end of the day. But if you combine the inclusivity plus some sort of a reporting, I think that's soft enforcement, if you will. And I don't know if I can use the word enforcement in this case, but it would offer some sort of a reporting on the metrics.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Now, moving on from that, you have been a thorough person to develop and grow business across industry verticals.
Mm-hmm.
Now, while doing so, do you come across any concerns of migrant workers? And if so, how do you resolve the concerns of migrant workers? Because Canada has so many migrants, and you yourself come from that background. So, how do you resolve that?
So thanks for the question. This is near and dear to my heart because I'm an immigrant. I landed in this country a little earlier, but I'm still an immigrant. Although I am Canadian now, but I still feel like when I talk to a new immigrant, I feel like I've been there. I was there. I was part of that group that came to this country and didn't know where to start. And so the main issue in being an immigrant in this country is when you land first, you need somebody to assist you, to help you get started in this country. You've got a brand new country. It's a shock to the system. A brand new country. Maybe the traditions are a little bit different from where you come. Maybe your qualification as an individual, you're a pharmacist, you're an engineer back where you came from. How do you start in Canada? How do you begin here? Who gives you a chance? And this is where the rubber hit the road. So in our business, for instance, when we need translators, and this is something, the organization I work for a few years back, now a little less, but a few years back, we were very involved in this, where we actually participated in an immigration program with the government to help people immigrate to this country so they become translators and working for us as translators, as full-time employees. At the other end of it has been back in the days when I was in the telecom business or in the tech business. I've hired engineers, we've hired tech people who are just landed in the country to give them a chance, to allow them to establish some sort of a foothold in terms of their career development here in the country. And that's what they needed at the time. And that's where, and some of those guys, and a lot of them actually, they're flourishing in their career right now. I'm still in contact with a lot of them. And what we've done for them at the time, and what we'll continue to do for them, in some cases, if they're still employed with us, it helped quite a bit. It helped tremendously. You don't know the anxiety and the stress moving from one country to another until you tried it. And when you come to a country and there's a lot of anxiety and stress associated with this, and I speak about that because I've been there 100%. And when somebody gives you a chance to lift you up, that's the chance that you cannot miss, and that's the chance that everybody needs.
I totally agree with you and comprehend with you. It's quite a journey, and yeah, I totally understand. Now, from there, you have been handling mergers and acquisition of Fortune 2000 companies. While doing so, do you all look into the aspect of ESG? And if so, what are the factors when you all are dealing in mergers, acquisitions, or investments?
Sorry, Harsha, I think I lost you. Your screen is froze. Sorry, Harsha, you're offline or you're on? Hello, Harsha, how are you? I can't hear you. I can't see you. Sorry, everybody. I think we lost Harsha, I guess. Um, if I understand the question, maybe I'm seeing my live here. I think I'm live still. I don't know, but let's let's carry on with the question. I guess Harsha's question was around. Sorry, Harsha, you're back. I'm trying to keep the show live here. I
Yeah,
lost you.
I'm sorry, my internet is a little down today. So my question to you was, since you are handling Fortune 2000 companies at strategic board level, do you all consider ESG while you are developing business or business acquisitions, mergers? If so, what are the factors that you all consider?
Yeah. So a couple of correction. One is I'm not handling acquisition for Fortune 2000. B, was I involved in mergers and acquisition? Of course I was, in variety of levels. So discussions in between, scouting for perhaps an acquisition target. Yes, I was involved in those. Um, the fundamental question, though, the basic of the question still exists, and I understand where you're coming from. So do you consider, and let me rephrase what you just said, do you consider the ESG element in an acquisition process? Of course, it has to line up. Any acquisition, it has to meet the cultural parallels, if you will. So if you look at an acquisition now and the culture doesn't meet, that means it's not going to be successful. So you look, what I mean by culture is the company culture. So company culture A wants to buy company B. If the cultures are not parallel business wise, it doesn't work, because then you're going to have a clash, and then that transaction is going to fail anyway. So the emphasis starts from, do we have, is beside all the mathematics around, is it successful business? How much do you want for the business? The second question is, on the human side of it, does it really fit? And what I mean by that is there, do they have the same, let's say, hiring culture, measuring of the staff? Do they operate in the same fashion that we do operate? ESG is part of it, obviously, and nobody wants to, be associated with a company that treats their employees strangely, badly, don't have an equal opportunity hiring process. Why would you want to do that? So those are my personal opinions, by the way. I've been there. I've touted those before. So back to your question, ESG is very important. I think I lost you again. Asha, still there? Hello, Hasha. How are you? I can't hear you. Hello? Hello?
Hello.
You're back.
I'm sorry. See, there is a electricity fluctuation.
Oh, I lost you again. Hello. Hello.
Hi. I guess I have poor internet, so I would just request you to share your message with our viewers instead of derailing it. Also, we being an education institution, what are the three topics that you think we should include to help the businesses to increase the profits plus implement sustainability together?
Okay. Thank you for the question again. So the various topics that you probably should include in your program or in your education curriculum. One is speak more or talk more about um, issues that reflects the concerns and the problems that the humanity is facing right now. And the curriculum should target about ways of solutioning them. So how do we solve some of these problems that we're currently having? And they don't need to be, they could be a large problems like, how do we cure the globe from various diseases and from various issues? The reliance on a variety of fossil fuels, etc. So those could be a conversations to be had, but they don't need to be as large as this. From a company perspective, focus on the efficiency. How do we create profitability? Is by, I don't know if you guys talk about it in your curriculum, but there may be an opportunity for the things like Black Belt, Six Sigma, and few other things that you probably can emphasize in trying to, because those, when we talk about doing things efficiently and sustain efficiently and use as little resources as possible to do something, it doesn't just necessarily increase profitability, but at the same time it helps the environment, it helps a variety of things. So in that regard, process improvement as a subject in any conversation is very interesting and very important. And the objective there is do more with less. And from a variety of ways, this is a great conversation. you can increase profitability, increase revenue, and you can cure the illness of the society and the environment specifically. If you're in a manufacturing environment and you do process improvement continuously and you adopt that in your process on a day-to-day basis, you're definitely going to be using less resources to produce more.
Thank you. It's very well said. You can increase your profitability, revenue, as well as kill the illness in the society. Thank you very much on that note, Mr. Robin. It was an honor to have you and wonderful to learn about your journey.
Thank you
Very
so much.
inspiring for all of us. Thank
Thank you
you.
so much. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Appreciate your time. Thank you, sir.
Thanks. Bye-bye now.